Hello, everybody, and welcome on an one-on-one episode of the Roundtable series. It's a pleasure and an honor to host today Mbula Musau, the director of Utake or Utake Coffee. I think that both works. So it's really a pleasure to have you on board today, Mbula.
Thank you for having me.
So you're in Kenya, and I would like to hear from you what has happened until today and what has been going on in the Kenya coffee market, in producers and the consuming side.
All right, so hi everyone. And as Yannis says, I'm from Kenya. In East Africa, our company is a Specialty Coffee Association Premier Training Campus. And in addition to that, we are roasters and we export coffee. So we are in a producing country, and the effects of COVID-19 have hit, as they have the world, but producing countries in different ways, let me say. And so I'll speak really like what is happening in my business and the direct stakeholders who I interact with relation to Kenya, as well as what the world generally knows. So I know many of you might not be aware, but Kenya is on a kind of a partial lockdown. And that means there are certain counties like Nairobi, Mombasa, and some parts of the north that are on basically no one can go in or out of the city, which means, there were the hotspots for the COVID-19. Most of the initial cases were found to be coming from those areas. And so that has affected a lot, given that most of the trade of coffee happens from Nairobi. It's produced out of Nairobi, but the trade happens within Nairobi. The auction is happening in Nairobi. The logistics are happening through Nairobi. There's an inland container depot. There's logistics companies handling all the coffee before it's either shipped by sea or by air. And so that has definitely affected the coffee sector, and we as a company as well. We are also on a curfew, 10-hour curfew, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. Absolutely no movement anywhere. You cannot go to the shop. You cannot go anywhere unless you're an essential service, and that's medics, media, some very specific businesses and companies. And so the restrictions have also definitely affected how everything operates, including cafes. You cannot run your cafe beyond a certain time. You have to release your staff around a certain time to enable them meet the curfew. As a training facility, we obviously, with all this, for health purposes, cannot hold courses, cannot hold in-person courses. And so the training side of things generally with regards to coffee, renewal of licenses, Q grader licenses, SCA licenses, is virtually, impossible physically. You can only do so much on the online portal, on the virtual side of things. And so that side of things has also really slowed down. The social distancing has affected how people interact, trust issues, you meet with people. We're still doing coffee deliveries and everything, but you cannot go into a certain space or a certain distance. And so it's just weird in many ways. But we're looking at how to go around this. The auction, for example, which is where coffee is traded every Tuesday in Kenya, was affected by this because it was a physical auction where people would sit and bid with the auctioneer sitting at the front and different marketers coming up, selling their coffees. The Ministry of Health challenged the way the operation was happening. And so some sales were literally closed, stopped from happening. And so they had to reinvent ways of doing business. And now we are doing auctions through Google Sheets as we develop a new digital online system of trading, which has happened, and now all the traders, dealers, exporters are just getting the hang of it and learning how it works. So definitely a new normal in many aspects of the coffee value chain. Yeah.
But is it also more efficient to do it through the Google Sheets and not having to be there physically to bid? And like that is this, I would say, inconvenience or temporary inconvenience will take something out which is much better than it used to be. Like, do you think that those are opportunities that anyone should be exploring those days?
I totally agree. And for a long time, I've been one of the people championing for us to have a really efficient online system of trading. However, the issue is really the abruptness with which it happened. And so it didn't really give the stakeholders, the government, enough time to like transition easily from a more analog system into the digital system. And that definitely comes with growing pains. Unfortunately, it affects people like farmers whose coffees, they're wondering how come it didn't get traded the way it usually gets traded. The initial times people were afraid of even going to the auction. So you would find, very few dealers getting to the auction and coffees not getting sold and pushed over to the next sale. So, the suddenness of it really is what has caused a bit of a disruption, but in all ways, it's most welcome. We as dealers are happy. The sector is happy to have a different way, a more efficient way. And hopefully they're going to fill up all the gaps to avoid any issues and make sure it's as transparent as possible, because we really need the trust of the producers in this kind of trade. So yeah, that is welcome. It's a welcome change.
So yeah, I think I can really relate to what you were saying. It's really interesting. There is that kind of joke that goes around social media that says what boosts your company, digital transformation in your company, and you have like options like your chief technical officer, and everybody's like putting COVID-19, and it's happening. And I know today that we're recording it. It's May 19th, and this will be played after June 1st. And you were talking about the education system from SEA, and we're from June 1st, we're going to make like important changes to the online delivery, at least on the foundation modules for every, I would say, vertical. So it's going to be, it pushes us into a digital change here. Mm-hmm. So I understand it has been, as for everybody, a very challenging situation, but really happy to hear that something positive is coming out. As on every, I think, crisis, there's some opportunities. But how about the people? Like, what do you hear from the stories from your staff, like farmers? Like, how are people dealing with that? Like, I know that, and especially coffee producers, they have been raising issues for contracts being canceled, quantities not being able to be absorbed. Like, what are the real issues there?
Yeah, I think for everyone, I don't know anyone who doesn't have a negative impact, a negative effect on this, but the extent, the degree is different for different people. Many producers who are not in countries that are, counties that are in lockdown or very restricted in movement are going on as usual. Like I've talked to a few farmers and it's business as usual. The only thing is they have to wear masks. They have to keep a distance, and you know how it is in some of these producing areas. It's really community. It's community based, and this creates a little bit of fear and uncertainty. And in terms of production, most of the counties in Kenya had already gone through the main season. In fact, by the time this interview is playing, the coffee sector, the Nairobi Coffee Exchange will be in recess because there's not enough coffee at the moment. We just finished our main harvest, and the fly crop is what is just starting now. So fly crop is like the smaller crop. We have 2 harvest seasons in Kenya. And so in terms of harvesting, that is going to be affected, definitely. People will not be able to, conglomerate in factories as they used to. Issues of training are going to be very difficult to do. Some of these trainings, especially during harvest season, are done on the ground. And, there's a little bit of gathering together that is supposed to happen in order for this to be effective. So those are definitely going to take a hit. With regards to prices, that is something that we can predict, we can already foresee, because most of the cafes that buy or located in consuming countries are closed, they're shut or have been shut for a while. So the demand that we're used to will definitely be affected, and that has a trickle down effect on the price that the farmer gets. Hopefully the auction system kind of tries to mitigate that for us, because it's also based on a factor of quality and not dominantly just the market forces. So producers should be okay. We pray that they are okay. And if at all they're going, if this extends, then we would see a problem with that. Some counties were also affected by locusts. I know some of you already had that. There was a locust invasion in some counties, and it affected production significantly in a number of counties. Luckily, not all of them. And so that combined with COVID, combined with flooding, we're also going through flooding in this main harvest season. And those are issues that would have happened anyway without COVID, but now coupled with COVID, it really makes the picture a little bit more grim. The group that I'm more in touch with are the retail end of the value chain. So I'm talking baristas, cafe owners, roasters. They are really adversely affected. So the baristas, for example, some of them work in hotels, and Kenya is big on hospitality and tourism, and all these hotels have basically been closed. Some of them were quarantine centers for a while, and then they were shut down after everybody was tested and either went to hospital or went home because they were okay, and business literally closed. I talked to the current champion of the Kenya Barista Championship, and he told me he had been on compulsory leave, unpaid, for a couple of weeks, and now he's back to work, but with a significant cut on his income. And you can imagine he's a senior barista, so the rest are basically at home. Most of their coffee shops have only one barista. Everyone else has either been laid off or is in limbo. And then you have the cafes and roasteries, those that rely on customers coming in to have coffee and snacks and food and everything, really severely hit because all these places have been closed for a while now. And even with the reopening, which was done about 2 weeks ago, people are a bit wary and cautious in going because they do not think, they're not sure. It's a requirement now for cafes to open, but on condition that they are COVID-19 compliant, meaning all their staff are tested, they observe distancing, meaning the tables are really spaced out, they sanitize and disinfect all their surfaces periodically. And we're yet to see how that pans out, but as we speak, it's really not gone back to business as usual. So it is definitely affecting very many people in that sector.
Yeah, I think this is common in most countries around the world, that the two ends of the supply chain, we know that the weakest ends, and baristas and small, medium businesses, coffee shops and small, medium roasters has been affected tremendously through that. It's really interesting though to hear that, and it's very, I would say it's something that we need to pay attention as we go out of lockdowns, many areas of the world, on how we go back to what used to be normal or to that new normal, and it's not going to be the same, because I believe what is important is that we've lost trust, and that's the important thing here, that there is no trust that of going out and socializing, and this is affecting hospitality business big time. And we've seen it's not only on coffee shops, like I think it's throughout the hospitality business, as you were saying, in hotels, tourism, like areas and countries live out of tourism. And we've seen like Italy, Spain, Greece, like everybody's trying to open up, because it's summer now in the Northern Hemisphere, and people are trying to get things done. So having said all that, where do you see opportunities? Like, where do you see that getting out of this crisis, we're going to see some things that are going to be changed in a way that will help us lead into the future? And if you see any.
Yes, I actually do. And I think as a leader or a business owner, I've had to rethink a lot of things, a lot of relationships, especially. It's no longer just a trade for coffee. As roasters, for example, we have taken this opportunity to interact more with our clients, find out what challenges they're having in, consuming coffee. As you know, they're not the percentage of people consuming coffee in Kenya, for example, is very low compared to how much we produce. It's one of the lowest per capita. And just finding out why this is and trying to use this as an opportunity to encourage domestic consumption, so that even with the markets fluctuating as they are because of a crisis like COVID, it can be mitigated by having local consumption or the local trade boost revenues and incomes, and so that the sector doesn't completely crash. So that is something we as an organization, and I'm sure a number of others in the country, have taken on at a different level, and grown the online presence, more marketplaces, online, e-commerce, selling coffee and promoting it on, through videos, and just basically what coffee is a profession to us, but it's a lifestyle to people. So trying to bring those together by just ensuring we really get to see how they do it at home, and they see how we do it at home, and ensure that this then translates to benefits in the entire value chain, including producers. Because without doing this kind of thing, as you said, the two weakest links of the value chain will really end up suffering. One other thing is just the amount of assurance we have to give to staff and stakeholders that we're in this together, we are partners in this, and we will get through it together. However, it is basically showing care has been one other thing that we realize, you can be so absorbed with getting things done and trading and doing business that you lose that sense. So that has really come up for us as a way of doing things differently. We've grown our distribution channels, as I mentioned, on the online portal. With people working at home, surprisingly, the consumption of coffee has significantly gone up. And so we take this opportunity to train and talk about, how to do this in the best way possible, how to achieve the best beverage at home and keep yourself motivated and boosted. Talking a lot also about mental health. How is everyone coping? Since there's no possibility to meet, there's really more social media, more phone calls, more SMSs, more following, just to make sure that everyone is really okay. So we've had an opportunity to do that, and I'm glad that we can still do that. If we were on total lockdown, it should have been a different story. Door-to-door deliveries are actually allowed and considered essential service in Kenya, so that has been really great. And I'm also taking the chance to collect data. So all this data that I'm getting in this process of marketing and listening and discussing with coffee enthusiasts, stakeholders from around the world, is giving me insights on some of things that could eventually lead to or be used for decisions with regards to the sector. And I'm finding that quite valuable. Repurposing of spaces, talking about how to repurpose some of these spaces. If we're not having in-person courses, for example, we are in the process of repurposing our space into a kind of a cafe and get it COVID-19 compliant, so that people who are struggling to work at home and need a space with high-speed internet and a good cup of coffee can still do that. So really, some of these opportunities that were previously on the back burner are coming up as important ways of connecting with clients.
That is really great. But I have a question for you,
go ahead.
that would be a tricky one. So you told us everything that you're doing, but how is Mbula going through all this? Like, everybody's looking leadership from Mbula, and she's trying to make sure everything is working and everybody's staying mentally healthy. But how is Mbula coping with all this?
Yeah, I've had different days, let me say. On the most part, I must say I've been okay, and I'm really grateful for that. Just because the nature of our business allows us to plan out the whole year out. It's not a day to day or month to month kind of experience. And there's a lot of hope for the other half of the year. The most affected has been the second quarter of the year, but the first quarter was basically really good, maybe better than anticipated. So in that sense, I am looking forward to the future with a lot of hope. When it comes to my own personal ways of doing things, I always like to tell people, when you lose willpower for something, for whatever reason, a system that is in place checks in, and that helps. So I basically have structured my day, my week, my month into a kind of system and things I know I have to do, so that even with the endless feeling of when will this end, and limbo and uncertainty, you have a system to refer to on what exactly is supposed to be happening on this day and at this particular time, regardless of the extenuating factors. And so that has helped me quite a bit. Going back to running in a system. So it's not about, oh, do I feel like running this morning? No, it's specific days, specific number of kilometers. And that has really helped me keep sane on a personal level, just because, running does a lot to your system, to your feelings, to your charge and energy. And that has helped me as a person very, very much. And also just checking on important areas of my life, family, friends, picking up the phone and talking to them and hearing them out. As much as we cannot meet, this is important. It's important to plan a phone call with groups that you like to meet with in different circumstances, plan a Zoom meeting, and just see how everyone is doing. So on a personal level, that's how I've managed. I have also taken to documenting a lot of things, like some of my hobbies, some of my cooking expeditions or exercise missions. And like everyone else, people say everyone is now baking and has now become an expert in this or that. It's just interesting now. There's a little bit more time to make it really good, make it work, play around with apps that can help you edit some of this stuff. So yeah, on that side, I've kind of just tried to keep my mind busy, but also just because of the new lines of business that we have had to explore, there's a lot of work that has come with it. I am a member of She Trades, which is in an ITC platform that empowers and trains women-owned businesses around the world. So I am attending many of those courses as well and webinars, and just taking this time to build on myself professionally with resources that are available. And I would encourage everyone who has access to, you know, the internet, as even if you're holed up at home, to look into those, because they are available and they're helpful. And at the end of all this, you will have added value to yourself and to your business. So that's my way at the moment.
So with that and that positivity, I would like to thank you for being with us today. I hope that we will be able to share a cup of coffee again soon, and maybe we can have a run together. So it has been a great pleasure to have you today. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Yannis. Have a great time, and definitely we will get on the road one of these days together. Stay safe.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you.
Take care.